everybody. This is obviously my third Top 5 Wednesday of April. Top 5 Wednesday, as always, was started by Lainey over at Ginger Reads Lainey. She opened it up for everybody to be able to participate. A link for the Goodreads group is down below, and from there you can find the complete list of Wednesdayers, and you can also find all the topics that are being done. This week's topic was Top 5 Siblings in Literature, and oh, what a great question. I love it, as always. Some of these were really tough for me to get into, like, choosing between which one I would put in front of the other, so I'm just gonna say this is a relatively arbitrary list. There's no real, like, oh, I clearly like this one way more than the other. They're just kind of on the list. Number 5 on this list are Jesus and Christ, from The Good Man Jesus and the Scoundrel Christ by Philip Pullman. I'm afraid I'm about to lose a whole bunch of you on this one, because this is a very controversial novel by Philip Pullman, who's obviously, to a lot of people, a very controversial author. But he then wrote this book called The Good Man Jesus and the Scoundrel Christ, which was kind of what it sounds like. It's his reinterpretation of a lot of the New Testament, where he imagines Jesus and Christ as two separate people. In fact, they're brothers, who are both trying to achieve the same thing but have different ways of doing it and slightly different views. And I like that they're brothers and that they don't always get along. And despite the fact that I oftentimes agree with one over the other, and I'm not going to say who, I thought it was a really interesting dynamic to have, because this is such a tumultuous time and they behave like brothers, but you see the stakes get so high that you watch actually this brotherly relationship almost fall apart, which I think is really sad but made for very interesting literature. Next on this list are Jem and Scout from To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I love Jem and Scout. I just think they're so wonderful, and I mean, Scout's one of my favourite characters ever. I mean, really, just ever. And so the relationship she has with Jem, I think, is great. They behave like real kids, and that's always something that I love. Because if you're writing children and to me they don't behave like children, you sort of immediately lose me. And I love that Jem and Scout just to me felt like real people. I know before, when I talked about parents and authority figures, I put Atticus Finch on this list. So, I mean, is anybody really that surprised that Jem and Scout are on here too? Number 3 on this list are the Weasleys from the Harry Potter series. Oh, the Weasleys. I mean, come on. You just love the Weasley siblings. Okay, maybe except Ginny. She drove me a little crazy. But outside of that, I love the Weasley siblings. I love Bill, Charlie, Percy, Fred, George, Ron, and Ginny. And I love that you see almost the total breakdown of that family come around book 5, but you watch how by the end, I mean, blood is thicker than water, they are family and they have to come back together. And even after everything that's happened, they're like, you're my brother, or in the case of Ginny, you're my sister. It's like, I love you, you're my family. And they're just like this big, boisterous family. I totally wish, like, I were part of the Weasley family. That'd be awesome. Alright, I'm gonna say these top 2... I hated having to pick these top 2. It was so hard. It was so hard because I love them both almost equally, but I had to think of them as like a full unit and which one I preferred as a full unit versus individual characters. Number 2 on this list is the Bennet Sisters from Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, they're only number 2. I would love to put them as number 1 because I love Lizzie Bennet. I love Lizzie Bennet. And I really like Jane. And I like sort of Mary and Kitty and, you know, there's Lydia. And this was what actually pushed them to number 2, is that I realised I love Lizzie Bennet. But as siblings, without Mr. and Mrs. Bennet in there, because they're not siblings, the rest of the sisters are sort of like okay for me. I really just love Lizzie Bennet, so I had to put them at number 2. I think the dynamic between the sisters is done really well. I don't have any sisters myself, I've got 2 younger brothers, but I can understand that dynamic and I think it's done really well. But my one problem is that I felt I didn't feel all the sisters were really developed. I thought Mary and Kitty were just sort of pushed aside, and Lydia's sort of there to serve her purpose, but Lizzie and Jane were the only 2 who for me felt really fleshed out, and so that's why they're at number 2, even though the fact that I love them and I think they're a great sister dynamic. And so number 1 goes to the March Sisters from Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. See, I love Jo, But I also love Beth, and I love Meg, and Amy drives me crazy, but I still like her. Every single one of these sisters is so multi-dimensional and so well done that I feel like I know them all. And that was what pushes them for me over the Bennet sisters, is that every single one of them feels developed, and they feel real. They feel like a family. And as much as I wouldn't want all of them as my sisters, I really just want Jo and Beth as my sisters. I love the March sisters. I love that they create their societies and they do their best to make the most out of what little they have, and they want to live their lives the way they want to live them, and so that's probably why I love them so much. So yes, that is all from me tonight, you guys. So until next time, cheers.